Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrew Stott, I'm the Emperor of Stomaria, and today I'm very pleased to announce that we're now in the process of acquiring our first territory. So, as some of our supporters will already be aware, the Kingdom of Wayward, a long-term ally of the Empire of Stomaria, has agreed to become an associated state within Stomaria. So I want to use this video as a way of explaining the three types of territory that make up Stomaria or will make up Stomaria, as well as the qualifications that a micronation has to have in order to become associated with Stomaria, and why the Kingdom of Wayward in particular meets those qualifications. And then finally I want to talk about how this arrangement is going to work, why it's going to be mutually beneficial, and why it's that this concept of Stomaria becoming a micronation of micronations has, at least in part, always been the plan and where we hope to go with it. So let's start by going over the three types of territory that make up Stomaria, or will make up Stomaria moving forward. So you have the province, the protectorate, and the associated state. And these are all considered territories within Stomaria, but they all have their very own specific definitions, and so they operate in slightly different ways. So a province is land that is directly owned by the imperial family and is managed by either a member of the imperial family or typically a Stomarian lord or lady, a noble, a part of the Stomarian nobility. A protectorate is land that's directly owned by the imperial family, but it is governed by the highest authority of another micronation. So hypothetically, say there is a micronation that claims a plot of land in Devon, for example, but they do not own that land. If they met other certain qualifications, certain criteria, then we may purchase that land, so we would own that land, and then they would manage it as a part of the Empire of Stomaria. And finally, we have the associated state, which is what Wayward is, where the land is directly owned and governed by the highest authority of another micronation, but they have freely decided to associate with the Empire of Stomaria. They wish to join the Empire of Stomaria without losing all of their autonomy. So this is where the territories differentiate, is who owns the land and who manages the land, and that is dependent on various different set of circumstances. So those are the three types of territory that make up Stomaria, or will make up Stomaria going forward. So when it comes to micronations that want to become associated states within Stomaria, there are certain qualifications, certain criteria that we're looking for in order for a micronation to be allowed that status as a part of the Empire of Stomaria. Because not all micronations are the same, they're not all striving for the same thing, they're not the same level of seriousness, they don't have the same objectives or values. So we're very aware of that, and we want to be quite selective when it comes to micronations that wish to become associated states. So we typically look for, or we query micronations on 5 topics. So the first is longevity. And when I talk about longevity, I'm saying, how long have you been around? Because if you've set up the micronation a week ago and you're applying to become an associated state within Stomaria, the odds are that you're going to be rejected, because micronations have a very short life expectancy, by and large, and there's only a few that manage to make it past 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and so on. So the idea of keeping micronations that have only been recently founded away from Stomaria, and in the sense that they can't become an associated state, is purely because we can't be sure that that micronation won't be defunct or altered into something different in the next few weeks or months. And we don't want to go through the hassle of announcing that they become an associated state only for them to become a liability or defunct in some way. So we look for longevity as one of the qualifications, the criteria for a micronation to become an associated state. The second thing we look for is consistency. So when I'm talking about consistency, I'm talking about, has your flag changed since you were founded? Has your name changed since you were founded? Has your government, your form of government changed since you were founded? It's not necessarily an instant no from us if any of those things has happened, as long as it's not too frequent and too drastic. But for the same reason that we're looking for longevity, is we want consistency, we want stability, we want reliability. Those are the sort of traits that we're after. And the third thing we're looking for is maturity. So this refers to both the, because micronations, they tend to be founded by 1 or 2 individuals, and are, spearheaded by 1 or 2 individuals. There might be other people involved in a less capacity, but it's normally less community orientated and more 1 or 2 people as the driving force within a micronation. And those 1 or 2 people involved in that micronation who lead that micronation, how old are they? Are they 10 or 11 years old? Because that would probably mean that we can't have you as an associated state within Stomaria. If you are, if the founders or the leaders are older than that, if they're, in their late teens, early 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever it may be, but they've engaged in micronational war, they've sent threatening emails, they've, brought their micronation or themselves into disrepute, we don't want to be associated with those sorts of activities or anything like that. So again, it's the maturity of the individuals involved in terms of both age and how they go about themselves. So that's another factor that we take into account. The fourth thing we look for is the territory itself. So is the territory directly owned by the people who are in charge of the micronation? Because that is a big sticking point for us. Micronations that claim public land or property that they don't own or have any authority over, that's not any good to us, because we're looking to build an empire that consists of land that we can utilize, that we can actually, make some, we want to be able to grow crops, we want to raise cattle or, sheep or goats or whatever. We want to be able to create a sustainable sort of energy network based on, sustainable tree cutting or solar panels or wind power or anything. We can't do that with publicly owned land. So, or land you don't own or have some authority or control over. So that is a big sticking point. Also, the actual location of the territory is important as well, because even though we're not necessarily opposed to micronations and micronationalists who own land outside of the British Isles becoming associated states, it obviously does limit our ability to have the sort of face-to-face interactions, the meaningful trading relationships that we're looking to establish. So it's not necessarily an instant no if the micronation is based outside of the British Isles, but it is something for us to consider. And the final thing that we look for is roundly sounded as suitability. So is the micronation suitable to become an associated state within Stomaria? And this could mean any number of things. If you are a fascist or a communist micronation, I mean, that's going to be an instant no from us. We don't want any association with that whatsoever, so they're not suitable. If their land that they own is, a plot of desert land, is that suitable for the Empire of Stomaria? Is it useful to us? Is it practical? Is it mutually beneficial? Again, probably not. So that's again something we have to take into account. And these are just all very broad strokes. I mean, there are no yes and no answers. You're in, you're out if you fail on any one of these points. But there is we do have to take these things into account when we decide which micronations can become associated states, because we do want to keep things consistent, we want to keep it meaningful, we want to keep it stable, and so we like our alliances, our associations with other micronations beforehand. We are quite selective when it comes to associated states. So that begs the question, does the Kingdom of Wayward meet all of these criteria? Are they a qualifying micronation? And the simple answer is yes. They don't come across, A's across the board. It's not all 100%, but they are suitable enough to become an associated state. So in terms of longevity, they've been around since May 2019. They are actually older than the Empire of Stomaria. In terms of consistency, they've never changed their flag, which is a big plus for us. They have changed their name from the Wayward territory to the Kingdom of Wayward, which wasn't a drastic change, but it was a change that they felt was necessary to better reflect their form of government, which is as an absolute monarch or an absolute monarchy. So in terms of the form of government, they have tweaked it on occasion to introduce democratic elements to it, but they are nonetheless an absolute monarchy, with King Raoul having the absolute final say within Wayward, because it is in fact his land, which I'll get onto in a minute. In terms of maturity, the Waywarders are an eccentric lot. They are a great crowd. There has been some quirks and some video footage of some less than savoury remarks and all the rest of it, but by and large there is nothing that has been said or done which would bring the Empire of Stomaria into disrepute in a meaningful way. It is, I have no issues with the goings on at Wayward. So in terms of maturity, I have no issues there. In terms of the territory itself, it is directly owned by King Raoul. So it is a pretty cut and dry case in this instance. It's land that is owned and being used as you would expect for a micronation like the one that we're trying to build. So no issues there at all. And finally, you have the suitability. So, their form of government is very consistent with our own. Stomaria is an absolute monarchy, as is the Kingdom of Wayward. In terms of using the land, utilising the land, it is something that is used and will continue to be used to develop a self-sufficient kind of lifestyle, and that's something we're going to be adding to, so there's no issues there. It's perfectly suitable. The location of the territory is about an hour's drive from where I live at the moment, so again, that's no issues there. And to top it all off, I have been personally going to Wayward, visiting Wayward, for over 2 years now. It must be around 50 times at this point. I love going there. I love seeing what they're doing, their updates. They've been through so much, their highs and their lows, and just trying to be there for them and support them in whatever small way I can. And I think, you know, that's a large part of why they're quite comfortable in becoming an associated state with us, because there is a genuine friendship there. There is a genuine trust there. And you know, I was quite touched when I was told as much the other day by King Raoul. So it is a privilege and an honor to be able to count the Kingdom of Wayward as an associated state within Stomaria. By the sounds of it, a lot of the people at Wayward, a lot of the Waywarders or the Wombles of Wayward, whatever they call themselves nowadays, they are very supportive of the idea. I've not heard of any issues in terms of people not agreeing with this decision, this direction. So that's another important factor. There is a lot of consensus for this move, so hopefully it'll be quite a frictionless transition. And that will hopefully be concluded, formalised in early September. And so, of course, that brings us on to why would the Kingdom of Wayward or any other micronation want to become an associated state within Stomaria? And the answer very much depends on what that micronation is trying to achieve. If, like the Kingdom of Wayward, like Stomaria, they are looking to build a real-world community, if they're looking to establish genuine trading relationships between different micronations, to reduce their reliance on and their contributions to the UK government or whichever macronational government that they might be a part of, depending on where they are in the world, then, you know, it is the best option available, because we are looking to develop the Kingdom of Wayward now that they're an associated state. King Raoul will become an Stomarian citizen, and will be encouraging other Waywarders to also become Stomarian citizens. And the funds raised from the recruitment of new citizens, as well as the funds already in the Imperial Treasury, that will be utilised to develop and expand not just Wayward, but other provinces, protectorates and associated states within Stomaria moving forward. In sort of practical terms, that means that we will be looking to help to supply them with the necessary resource and materials to continue to cultivate the land, to be able to utilise the land, and once additional produce has been created, once that's all been established, then we can purchase that directly from the Kingdom of Wayward. And in that way, for example, we can get organic and quite sustainable supply of herbs, of fruits, of vegetables, of meat. And it's a case of, if we do it that way, then we don't have to purchase products, or those particular products, from businesses and corporations within the United Kingdom, which in turn means that we don't have to contribute to the coffers of the UK government. It creates a sort of internal supply chain. And with additional territories, be they provinces, protectorates or associated states, in Stomaria in the future, we hope to be able to create an internal sort of a trading organisation, if you like. So we will be able to utilise land in different ways. Some will produce timber or other raw materials, some will produce food in terms of fruits or vegetables, some will focus on livestock, and just sort of create an internal economic model. I will do another video on this, explaining it in more detail. I am just rambling at the moment. I am just very excited about all of this, so you'll have to forgive my sort of a rambling sort of motion at the moment. But it is all very exciting, and I look forward to working with the Kingdom of Wayward in creating a truly self-sustaining, prosperous micronation. So if you enjoyed that video, please feel free to give it a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll catch you in the next one.